Dangerous Castorice will petrify her enemies with a single touch, and today I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what relics does this cursed cutie desire? None other than 4-piece Poet of Morning Collapse. This synergizes perfectly with her kit. The 2-piece offering some quantum damage is neat, and you're able to yield a whole ton of free crit rate from the full set effect. It's excellent that this applies to your dragon as well, seeing as it takes care of such a large portion of her damage output. Make sure to avoid speed substats as best as you can, so you can proc the 4-piece effect. 2-piece mix and match sets include 2-piece HP percent, crit rate percent, and quantum percent. As for her 2-piece string and orb, simple. It doesn't get better than Bone Collection's Serene Demise. This set was tailor-made for her. You get a nice boost to your HP percent, and you also land a lovely crit damage increase after passing the 5000 HP threshold. This is extremely easy to do on Castorice. Plus, it specifies that the crit damage applies to your Memo Sprite, which is brilliant, considering how almost all of her damage comes from Pollux. As for Castorice's main stats, simple. Go for HP percent boots, a crit percent or HP percent body, an HP percent or quantum percent orb, and an HP percent string. You want to run her on base speed to make 4-piece Poet work, so using HP boots is an absolute no-brainer. You want to use crit percent on her body, but an HP percent body works too if you've overwhelmingly good crit stats. Whether you use HP percent or quantum percent for her orb doesn't matter much, because they're very close in performance to one another, so choose whatever has the better substats. However, HP percent is better by a small amount, and it scales very well with supports that offer you damage percent, and going for an HP percent string is a given. As for Castorice's stat goals, simple. Go for 7000 to 9000 HP, 30 to 160 to 200 crit rate and damage, and base speed. You're gonna have a whole lot of HP on this woman, but the exact amount varies a lot depending on your choice of orb and your light cone of choice. You can have extremely low crit rate outside of combat, since Poet gives her a whole lot, and so do your key supports. Aim to getting as close as 100% in combat as you possibly can. There's literally zero reason to choose any set other than 4-piece Poet for her. It synergizes perfectly with her kit. Farm it as soon as you can. Bone Collection is also clearly her signature set, and it offers some brilliant stat sticks to her. You should try to get it as soon as you possibly can. Naturally, an Executor of Lives is going to need the right tools for the job. So, what'll Castorice's best Lycone choices be? None other than Make Farewells More Beautiful. It synergizes with her kit perfectly. Plenty of max HP ripe for the picking, and a whole lot of Def Ignore, not to mention some Action Advance. This light cone is comically strong for her, as it's perfectly tuned to your kit. No other light cone is nearly as good as Castorice's specific cone. Definitely her best light cone choice. Sweat Now, Cry Less will be your next best bet. You get a good amount of crit rate and damage, and the crit damage applies to your Memo Sprite too. It's mostly an excellent stat stick, and serves as a splendid alternative if you don't have access to your primary signature light cone option. You're able to use time waits for no one or post-stop conversation for their base HP, as this will unironically be better than using her other workable options due to how particular her kit is. Nothing else to add here, as the base HP of these cones are quite literally the only reason that you would use them. Victory in a Blink, while pretty cope, is going to be your best completely free-to-play friendly bet. Sadly, the Remembrance path is still quite new, and during Castorice's release, you're not really going to have any good in-shop light cones to use for her, so if you don't have access to any of her other cones, you're going to have to make do with this. It offers her 24% crit damage, but that's quite literally it. Crit damage that doesn't even apply to our Memo Sprite, by the way. Cope, but hey, at least you'll experience a huge damage boost when you're able to upgrade this choice to something better. Sadly, Castorice's current light cone roster leaves a whole lot to be desired. I wouldn't worry too much, because the Remembrance path is very new, and it's likely that Hoyoverse will add more free-to-play friendly light cones for her soon. But as it currently stands, yeah, she's pretty strapped for options. Yet who shall join this Maiden of Death in her journey to embrace the world? Well, Trippy is going to be one of her best installed supports. This is for a couple of reasons. She offers Castor some extremely strong buffs that suit her well, such as her Res Pen. Trippy is also able to contribute her own amount of personal damage, and she attacks super often. This is especially powerful if you're using healers that sustain your team when a teammate doesn't attack, because your Castorice is going to be in heaven with all of the healing that she's going to receive. She's a fellow Quantum unit, meaning that Quantum foes are going to go down with ease, and she offers a great high asteroids-based investment path via her E1, easily her best in slot. You can replace her with the likes of Ruan, Mei, or Jiao Cho, but these partners aren't going to be anywhere near as strong as Trippy. Pella would be your free-to-play friendly replacement. Remembrance MC is going to be a super synergistic teammate for her as well. A great crit damage buff. She can advance the dragon forward, and her true damage buff is extremely strong for Castorice. Considering that this unit is so free-to-play friendly, her performance of Castorice is utterly incredible. Sunday is an interesting case. So you want to run him on 160 to 166 speed, while Castorice runs base speed. His crit buffs are excellent for her, and her Memo Sprite can also enjoy the spoils of his buffs. However, unfortunately, his crit damage buff won't apply to the dragon if you buff Castorice before you summon the dragon. Secondly, speed tuning can be very iffy with these two together. Mem counts as another teammate for HP loss and gain, whereas Sunday is just one guy, and Sunday's energy provisions aren't useful for Castorice, as she doesn't operate based on a traditional ult energy system. He's still a very good support for her, of course, but don't be concerned if you didn't pull for him, because RMC is better anyway. He can indeed be used in place of RMC if you want to save him for another team instead. You can actually pull off a dual carry setup with everybody's favorite handsome king of the Kremnoans, Mighty. My beloved. I do want to quickly say that the most efficient way to play Castorice is as her own DPS being supported by RMC. However, because of how Mighty is a super high HP unit, and Castorice wants units to consume as much HP as possible, this dual carry setup ends up being very entertaining. You want to use a team-wide buffer such as Tribi or Romme for this particular team. Immortal man and a lady who ends lives with a mere touch. Truly a unique duo to play. This will be a pretty solid setup for sure. Blade works here too, as he regularly loses a lot of HP as well. He'll be a good substitute if you're interested in playing around with his synergy. Healer-wise, you have a couple of good choices. Lorcha is excellent, as he heals enemies as soon as they drop below 50% HP, and his field is very effective, along with being skill point efficient. I highly recommend him if you have him. He's currently free with the material that Hoyoverse gave us all upon 3.2's launch. Of course, good old reliable Gallagher works fantastically as well. The Galachad works for the main reasons that you'd expect. Splendid free-to-play friendly healer that can allow your teammates to heal themselves upon hitting whichever enemy he marks with his ult debuff. He's incredibly reliable. Ho-Ho can work fine too, and her team-wide healing is very strong, but do keep in mind that her energy generation qualities are not going to be effective on Castorice, because in order to ult, she wants to consume HP, and attack percent buffs are utterly worthless to Castorice. You want to avoid using supports that aren't very effective for HP scalers, such as Robin or 4-star Tingyun, and of course, you don't want to use shielders, because healers are such a necessity for her. Example teams include Castorice, RMC, Tribi, Healer, the Death Maiden, Sunday, RMC or Tribi, Healer, Dragon Lady, Mighty Moser Blade, Tribi, Romme, Healer. Your completely free-to-play friendly choice will be the Big Lizard Owner, RMC, Pella, and a Healer. Yet how does this ethereal princess work? Well, her basic attack deals one simple quantum strike, nothing much else to add here. As for her non-Memo Sprite skill, Castorice will do a blast quantum hit and will consume 30% of everyone's HP. It's as simple as that. As for her ultimate, Castorice will summon her giant dragon Memo Sprite, Neverwing, and advances his action forward by a fixed 100%. She'll create a territory which reduces the all-type res pen of all on-field enemies. If you have a damage boost from Castorice's talent, then Neverwing gains this effect too. Netherwing has a fixed initial speed of 165 and will last for either 3 turns, or until he loses all of his HP. When he disappears, the res pen reducing territory dissipates. When Neverwing is on field, Castorice's skill will turn into the Dragon's Memo Sprite skill. If you simply tap it, this ability will consume 40% of all allies' HP on field, except for Neverwing himself, and both Castorice plus Neverwing will launch a joint attack on enemies. During his turn, if you hold down the skill button, then he'll do a large Dragon Breath attack which consumes his own HP. You're able to do this in segments so that before he lands on 0 HP, you can do a claw attack and save him for the next turn instead. The damage multiplier of this ability increases for each breath blast that you do. When you fully consume all of his HP, he will explode a huge quantum attack upon foes, and restore some of your teammates' HP. His talent will increase the damage dealt of all of your teammates by 10% after being summoned too, which is brilliant. As for Castorice's own talent, simple. Whenever any ally loses 1 point of HP, Castorice gains a point of New Bud. When this reaches its limit, you're able to use her ultimate, and whenever allies lose HP, both she and her dragon will gain a damage dealt increase. This can stack 3 times, and last 3 turns, and whenever the dragon is currently on field, you can't gain any new Bud points, and HP lost by all allies that aren't the dragon will actually feed the dragon an equal amount of HP. Castorice's technique will enter the Never Veil state. Enemies can't attack her during this state, and during this state, all active attacks will cause you to enter combat. When you do enter combat, you summon Netherwing at half HP, and advance him forward by 100% as you normally would. The res pen territory gets summoned, and all of your allies except the dragon lose 40% of their HP. If you don't summon Neverwing after entering battle with her technique, then she gains New Bud equal to 30% of her max New Bud cap. Castorice also features a global passive, which means that even when she is not currently being used in combat, you will be able to reap the benefits of this passive. Essentially, whenever one or more of your teammates die, they revive at 1 HP. If you don't heal or shield them immediately afterwards, they will die the next turn, but if you do, then they can come back into the fight. You can only make use of this once per battle, keep that in mind. As for Castorice's Ascension passives, simple. Her A2 will allow you to gain new Bud points via healing, or heal the dragon when it's on field should any allies receive healing. A nice way to speed up the process of summoning her dragon. This makes healers integral to her new Bud generation. Castorice's A4 will cause her speed to be affected if she has more than 50 HP. with Neverwing gaining a 100% speed boost if he brings enemies to a fatal point in battle. Her A6 will provide her dragon with a 30% damage dealt increase every time he uses his breath attack, and this can stack up to 6 times. Neat. As for Castorice's trace priority, simple, go for this. All of her abilities are important, so make sure that you don't neglect any one of them, except her basic, you can indeed ignore that. But Dragon's breath attack is a main meat of her kit, so level it first. You want as much HP drain and damage dealt increase as possible, which is why you prioritize her skill and talent next. Then you go for her ult, and then her Dragon's Claw attack. Allow me to reiterate, ignore her basic attack. Want to pay for Castorice's groceries? Then let's talk Eidolons. Castorice's E1 is a nice boost to her Member Sprite's damage output. While this is of course not necessary by any means, it's a good E1. This prolongs the amount of time that the dragon lasts, as you won't explode it as quickly for HP consumption. And during the next enhanced skill, Castorice immediately fills 30% of her new bud gauge. An increase to her ult, basic, and memo talent. Some small increases all around. I wouldn't prioritize this Eidolon, but the memo talent increase is indeed appreciated. This boosts the amount of incoming healing for all of your party members, which can help with survivability. Not to mention new bud generation. Good stuff, but you don't really need this. This is where the meaty trace upgrades lie. You get +2 to all of her most important abilities. Wonderful E5. This is a very packed D6. Res pen increase, the dragon will now ignore all weaknesses and directly reduce enemy toughness, and the dragon's explosion will now do 3 more damage procs. One of the strongest D6s in the game. E0 is more than enough to clear all content. However, if you're a whale wondering which DPS you should get an E6 on, I'd say that turning your gaze to Castorice wouldn't be a bad idea at all. In terms of high stellar Jades-based investment, you want to get Trippy first, then her Light Cone, seeing as we're so strapped for options at the moment. Then, I'd say that Eidolons up to E2 is a good stopping point. Otherwise, go all the way to E6 if that's what you're aiming for. Castorice's kit is overwhelmingly powerful, and enemies do not stand a chance of this Dragon Lady of Death around. Also, the quality of her animations. Actual chef's kiss Hoyoverse. They blew it out of the park with this unit's art direction. Needless to say, this character is definitely worth every stellar jade that you may spend on her. Her strength truly reflects that of Akuma's Executor. What do you think about Castorice? Are you enjoying her so far? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week every week on Saturdays, starting from 3 PM UK time. Hopefully this video was able to get your Castorice ceremoniously sending your enemies away to meet their ends. This has been Juice, signing out, and may you lead a happy life with this powerful dragon lady by your side.